Okay, so basically in this section we are going to study the power set of X with containment. Okay, we are going to look at the power set of X with containment where X is finite. X is finite. We are going to study this poset. Okay, so the first exercise which we can prove, which is I think quite easy for all of us, is what is the length of the largest chain? Okay, so the length of the largest chain in power set of this is the set 1 2 3 up to t, okay, with containment is as we know t plus 1, right? Okay, and how many of these are there? How many of these are there? T factorial of these are there, right? How do we get it? Start with the empty set, right? Because again, how do I know that this is the length of the largest chain? There are two things you need to prove. One is every chain has length less than t plus 1. How do I know this? Because if you take any chain, it cannot have two subsets with the same number of elements in it. Okay, you cannot have two subsets with the same number of elements in it. Hence, at most you have one subset of with 0 elements in it, that's the empty set. One subset with 1 element, 2 elements, 3 elements, 4 elements, and whatever up to t elements, that is exactly t. Now you need to show existence, that is easy. Start with the one chain you can give me, that is the empty set 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on up to t. So that's exactly one chain, that will be one chain of length t plus 1. So we got existence and we got we shown less than or equal to also. Okay, every chain is of length less than or equal to t plus 1, and we got one of length. How many can you form of length t plus 1? Okay, because every chain of length t plus 1 has to have one element, has to have the empty set, has to have an element of with exactly one element in it, has to have exactly an element with 2 elements in it, and so on up to the last one. So this you can compute combinatorially, and you can see that is exactly, there are exactly t factorial such chains, okay, which we will call as the maximal chains in this poset. Okay, we will call these as the maximal chains in the poset for good reason. They are of the maximum length. Okay, another interesting fact that you can see is obviously every set sits inside some maximal chain, that is easy to observe, right? Every set sits inside some maximal chain. My question is, how many maximal chains does a particular set sit inside? Let us take an example. So let us go with the set 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a big enough number to get an intuition, yet not so big that it's difficult to draw. So the empty set 2. Okay, then you have let me go here only 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3. Am I making a mistake? No. 2, 3, 2, 4, and 3, 4. Okay, and then the 3 element sets will be remove 1, or let's remove 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4. And finally, you have the full set 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So you can draw these containment arrays if you like. I think all of y'all can actually visualize, but I'll draw it for each level. I'll draw just one, otherwise this become a little messy. Okay, so you can see these are going 3 choices, right? And so let's look at this particular set. Okay, let me take this particular set. So as you can see, where are these maximal chains? They start with the empty set, go to 1, then, right? Something like this is a maximal chain. Let me put a, this would be a maximal chain. Then we have 2, 3, 4. You have 2 options there. Let me go with this one. And finally, this one. That's one maximal chain. Right? Make sense? You can see here, empty set, put 2 inside, put 3 inside, put 1 inside, put 4 inside. Okay, that's one of the maximal chains. Now, my question is, so this is one of the maximal chains where this set sits inside, 2, 3. How many maximal chains does this set sit inside? How will you count? How many maximal chains does this set sit inside? So how many chains of length 5 does this set sit inside? So think about it. If I want 2, 3, that means what should be the first 2 elements that I insert? You have no other option, right? It has to be 2 and 3 have to be the first 2 elements. So that can be done in how many ways? Either you first insert 2 and then you insert 3, or you first insert 3 and then you insert 2. So you have 2 options, either go here and then here, or go here and then there. That's first inserting 2 and then 3, or first you insert 3 and then 2. Okay, so the earlier part of the chain is going to come in this manner. What about the later part? What about the later part? So what else is left to put inside? 1 and 4, right? So to reach up there, I now need to insert 1 and insert 4. And how many ways can you do that? Another 2 ways, right? So because that's the complement. Okay, so to make this, you need 2 ways. There are 2 ways to create this, and then beyond that, you have another 2 ways. So how many chains? 4. Okay, so either you start first with this and then you go there. We can just draw this just for the sake of it. You go here and then there. So either you go take this path and come here and then go there, or you take this path, come here, or whatever. I think you get the point. Okay, so you have exactly 4 maximal chains which 2, 3 sits inside. So what about this question in general? If I take some fixed set, how many maximal chains does it sit inside? Okay. So, yeah. Any guesses? So for T in N and yeah, any idea? What do you expect this to be? the cardinality of A is alpha, right? How many maximal chains does A sit inside? That's not right. Think about what if you had 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 4. What would your process be? First you fill in 1, 3, 4, which can be done in how many ways? How many ways can 1, 3, 4 be filled inside? Either you start with 1, or you start with 2, or you start with 3, or you start with 4. If you start with 1, then you can either go to 2, 3 or 4. How many ways can it be filled? 3 factorial ways, right? Either first you start with 1, 3 factorial. Correct? Either you start with 1 and then do 2 and 3, or you start with 1, do 3 and 4, 4 and 3. That's the different chains that you're going to get. And then once you have got 1, 3, 4, that can be filled in 3 factorial ways, then there's just one way of going up there, that is by inserting 2. Okay, so general. What is the general case? So ask yourself the exact same question. How many ways can I fill A? Alpha factorial. And what about the complement of A? T minus alpha factorial. So A can be filled in alpha factorial ways, and then we can get the rest of the elements of A, the elements outside A in T minus alpha factorial. So that's going to be exactly alpha factorial times T minus alpha factorial. So this is going to be in exactly these many number of maximal chains. Okay, so yeah, so how do you construct this? So any chain of any maximal chain of containing A can be constructed by first starting with the empty set and then continuously inserting one element of A at a time, right, which can be done exactly in alpha factorial ways. And then after that, once you reach A, you can insert the complement of A in exactly T minus alpha factorial ways. So that's for the product. So you can visualize, you will have some arrays coming, some red arrays, and then you'll have those greens. The red ones will be exactly up to A, the red ones will be exactly alpha factorial, and the green ones which go on top will be T minus alpha factorial, and then the product is, because you will go one red, one green, so that's going to give you, okay, that's the multiplication theorem. Yeah? Why we are multiplying T minus? Because we need to go, see, we have to first form A. To form A, how many ways we can do that? Alpha factorial ways, right? At each stage, putting an element means what? You are going from this level to the next level. So how many ways can you go from one level to the next? It's first level you can go in alpha ways. The second level you can go in alpha minus 1 ways. Third level you can go in alpha minus 2 ways, and so on up to the 8th level, the alpha level you can go in just one way. Okay, so that's way. So you get alpha factorial. Now from the alpha level, you need to go to the tth level. There you are inserting the complement, elements in the complement. See here, to form this we had to go insert 2 and 3, and then you insert the elements in the complement. That's what, that is T minus alpha factorial. Okay, that's the way it is. So that's here. So these are the number of chains containing A, maximal chains containing A will be exactly these many. Okay, so this is the Sperner's theorem, which gives us a nice upper bound for the biggest anti-chain. So anyway, can you make a guess over here as to what should be the largest anti-chain? Can anyone see here? I'm not sure. And in this case, at least, can you make a guess? a guess. We make a guess and then we need to prove it. Yeah, but any guess? You're saying this? Okay. But you can have different, you can also have anti-chains like take 1 and then take a 2, 4, right? And then you can take a 2, 3, 4. No, 1, 3, 4. No, that doesn't work. So you can do those kind of things also. Yeah?
Length is smaller than the width.
How, why? Length is, the length is in this case 5, but that doesn't.
So we can discard the way you said.
You can discard the?
The way you said, no? Taking 1 each will always be less than the length. Less than or equal to.
I did not get it.
So if you are picking one element to form an anti-chain from each level.
No, I'm not saying you pick one element. I'm saying it's not necessary that all elements of the anti-chain should be from the same level. From an anti-chain need to be in the same level. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying you should not only be looking at this, you can also take one element from here and then something like that. Okay, anyway. So it's a good guess that this should be 6. Okay, this one. It kind of gives you the geometric sense of the width, but you need a good proof for it. In this case, I think it's actually quite easy to give a proof for it. Okay. I mean, in any finite case, you can always give a simple proof to it. Example, if you had a one element set in the anti-chain, right? If you have a one element set in the anti-chain, then there is just one more set that can go inside the anti-chain. Anti-chain, right? So you can't have these things. What? There's just one more this thing, because how do I put this out? If you have a one element set and you have two elements in the anti-chain, that means the other one will have, how do I put this out? Okay, you can't have a 2, 3 is possible, and you can also add 2, 4. So that's a problem. So if that's, yeah, I think you would need some work for this. So I don't know whether it is actually that easy to prove in this case. Maybe it is. We'll have to look at it more. You have a if you have, maybe you can do something like this. If you have one here, then at this level, at most you can have this one, this one, this one. I don't know. I would prefer to keep that out, and you can have a look at it and see whether it is possible to give a proof in this case. Okay, but the Sperner's theorem gives us a nice proof for an upper bound of the largest anti-chain. Okay, it gives us a nice proof for the upper bound of the anti-chain, and it actually works out to be this. This is quite a nice, interesting anti-chain. This is a nice, interesting anti-chain. It is obviously an anti-chain. This is obviously an anti-chain because it has, in fact, any set containing the same number of subsets, the subsets of the same number of elements will be an anti-chain. Okay, in particular, this is an anti-chain. Okay, this will be an anti-chain because none of them are contained in the other. You can't. So this has 6. So let's see what the Sperner's theorem tells us, that this is always the case for any t. This is always the case, that is the middlemost. Of course you have two problems. You have one problem is that when you are even, then you have one middle line, right? But if you are odd, this comes from the number of elements in these come from the binomial coefficients, right? Number of elements here will be 4c1, 4c2, right? 4c3 and 4c4. So the highest one is in the middle for when t is even, right? When t is even, the largest one is going to come in the middle. But when t is odd, you get 2, right? One is you all know your this thing, right? So like say your Pascal's triangle looks something like this. So you can see when they are even, we have proved this in your first chapter, okay, that the binomial coefficients increase up to the middle and then they decrease. That's what we have proved in this thing. So the middle one is what's going to be your maximum. In case of the even numbers, the middle one will be at t by 2. But in case of odd, the greatest integer of t by 2. Or here you are going to get t minus 1 by 2. Okay, the greatest integer of t by 2 is t minus 1 by 2. Okay, the greatest integer of t by 2 will be t minus 1 by 2, and you have another one also, which will be t minus 1 by 2. That is this one, or in other words, t minus 1 by 2 plus 1, which will be t plus 1 by 2. That is this one here. Okay, in this case you are going to have, okay, at the tth level you are going to have this. So it increases up to this, here it remains equal and then it decreases. That's the, so this is what we expect the biggest ones to be. So let's try to prove the Sperner's theorem. So we give an upper bound for the biggest anti-chain. So for any t, for t in n, the size of the largest, or the size of any anti-chain, in fact, size of an anti-chain, in the power set of T with containment is less than or equal to Tc T by 2. Okay, that's what it is. So when T is even, this will be Tc T by 2, greatest integer of T by 2. This is greatest integer. Okay, and when T is odd, this will be Tc T minus 1 by 2. Okay, so let's prove this. It's a nice proof. So you start with an anti-chain. So let's say script A equals A1, A2 up to AM be an anti-chain such that, okay, so this is an anti-chain of this, I'm not writing properly, such that the cardinality of AI, let us call this cardinality as alpha I. So it uses this interesting fact which we have proved in the previous exercise, that is, ai will be contained in exactly alpha I into m minus alpha, sorry, into t minus alpha I maximal antichains. Okay, ai will be in exactly alpha I into t minus alpha I maximal antichains. Yeah. Another thing that you have to understand is that any anti-chain cannot have two elements from the same chain. Right? That's also quite obvious. An anti-chain cannot have two elements from the same chain because none of these elements are related. Right? So you cannot have more than two elements from the same chain. Okay? So notice that. For each I, ai is in exactly, this we have proved in the last exercise, alpha I times t minus alpha I maximal antichains. Okay, again, or let me just say chains of length t plus 1. Okay, it will be in exactly these many. Okay, now the chains which A1 is, A2 will not be in. So this will be in alpha 1 times t minus alpha 1 chains of length t plus 1. This will be in alpha 2 times t minus alpha 2 chains of length t plus 1. And these chains will not be the same as those chains. The chains will not be the same. They will have common elements, that's fine. But overall the chains will be different. They will not have all the same elements. Okay, no two of them will have all the same element. That's not possible because two elements of an anti-chain cannot be in the same chain. They cannot be related. Hence they cannot be in the same chain. Okay, so therefore what happens is, if you sum up all these maximal chains, since ai and aj cannot be in the same anti-chain, okay, since these ai minus aj, ai and aj for I not equal to j, okay, since ai and aj cannot be in the same anti-chain, what happens is the summation of all these alpha I times t minus alpha I 1 to m, okay, these will all be all distinct anti-chains, right? So therefore this has to be less than the total number of anti-chains, because there is no repetition. Among these there is no repetition. And what is the total number of maximal anti-chains? What is the total number of maximal anti-chains? These are all maximal anti-chains, right? None of them are the same. Okay, the anti-chains which sorry, not anti-chains, chains, the chains in which right, these cannot be in the same chains. They are two elements of an anti-chain. They can't be in the same chains. Okay, so that means that all these chains are distinct, but how many maximal chains are they? How many chains are they of length t plus 1? That was the first exercise which we proved, right? How many? T factorial, right? So that is t factorial. We can bring this down here and then take the numerator down, which will give you 1 over t factorial upon alpha I factorial into t minus alpha I, okay, which will be summation I going from 1 to m, 1 over, what is this? Tc alpha I, okay, that will be exactly Tc alpha I. So this should be less than or equal to t factorial. Now we know that we have an upper bound for the binomial, for the binomial coefficient, there is an upper bound, that is any binomial coefficient is less than the middle one. Okay, so therefore, since TC alpha, we have proved this in the first chapter, is less than or equal to TC T by 2, this is the middle one. In both cases, whether T is even or odd, this will either be the middle one or the left middle one. When it's odd, it will be the left middle one. So that's fine. Right, when this is even, this is going to be T by 2, and when it's odd, it's going to be T minus 1 by 2. So since this happens, what happens here is 1 over this will be greater than or equal to 1 over this. Make sense? What happens here is 1 upon TC T by 2 will be less than or equal to 1 upon, just cross multiply, TC alpha I. Okay, from here you can make the substitution there to get a beautiful theorem. So apparently this was actually not proved by Sperner. Sperner used some probabilistic method to give this proof. I don't know what it is. Okay, this would be less than or equal to summation I going from 1 to m, 1 over TC alpha I, and this is less than or equal to, sorry, I made a mistake, right? This is 1. Right, that's 1. So this is less than or equal, yeah? Yeah, this is alpha I factorial. Thank you. Yes, that's also factorial. Okay, so this is less than this, but this is a constant, right? There's no I here. So therefore what we have is m upon TC T by 2 less than or equal to 1, and therefore m should be less than or equal to TC T by 2. And what was m? What was m? The number of elements in the antichain. Okay, m was the number of elements in the antichain, so we've got a upper bound for it. Of course, existence is quite easy. You simply just take all subsets with greatest integer of T by 2 number of elements. So that would have that would be an antichain with exactly these many. So even achieving this is easy. So that's you easily prove both these things. Once you prove that this is an upper bound, you easily prove that this is the best possibility. But there is something more you can prove, and that is that these are the only possible ones. Okay, so then of course in case of even, in case of the even, I want to say that you take all the subsets with T by 2 elements in them. Okay, so if you have 6, look at all subsets with 3 elements in it. Okay, and if you have odd, so that I am saying that that is the only maximal antichain. Okay, and if you have odd, I don't know whether that is maximal, only maximal, but the antichain of the biggest size. I think that's not necessarily maximal, because maximal can be attained in different ways. Anyway, and if you look at, yeah, definitely not maximal. And if T is odd, then I want to say that both those levels, that is the T minus 1 by 2 level, that is all your subsets with T minus 1 by 2 number of elements, is an antichain, and the subsets with T plus 1 by 2 elements is also an antichain, and these are the only 2 antichains. you cannot even have an anti-chain with some subsets with t minus 1 by 2 elements and some subsets with t plus 1 by 2 elements. That doesn't happen. So these are the only two anti-chains. So when t is odd, when t is even, there is exactly one anti-chain of length tct by 2, and when t is odd, what did I say? When t is even, there is exactly one anti-chain of size tct by 2, and when t is odd, there are exactly two anti-chains of size tc, greatest integer of t by 2. Okay, so that's what we are going to prove. So the even case is quite easy to see. It's just the odd case that needs to be proved. So let's look at first the even case. In fact, I actually need these computations to get what I want. Any case, we'll have to redo it. So okay, then there is exactly one anti-chain of size tct by 2. Okay, this is the maximum possible size because t is even. So the greatest integer of t by 2 is t by 2. It's going to be a natural number. Okay, of size in the power set of okay, and which is the one? Which is the set containing all subsets of this with t by 2 number of elements. Okay, there are exactly tc t by 2 subsets, right? There are exactly there are exactly tc t by 2 subsets with t by 2 number of elements, right? That's the definition of the binomial coefficient. So the fact that it is an anti-chain gives you the existence. Okay, the fact that this is an anti-chain, because as I have told you before, that if you look at any subset of the power set that has the same number of elements in each set, where every set has the same number of elements, it has to be an anti-chain. There is no doubt about that. The only thing that we need to show is that you can't have another anti-chain. Okay, that you cannot have any other anti-chain. So how do we prove this? So suppose, let us say script A equals is an anti-chain. Okay, suppose this is an anti-chain in power set of T with containment such that the number of elements in the anti-chain, okay, is exactly T by 2. So what I am going to show, what do I need to show here? Existence part is done, because if you look at just the subset of the power set that contains only the subsets of T with T by 2 elements, it will be an anti-chain with TCT by 2 elements in it. So that's easy to see, of size TCT by 2. Now I'm taking any other anti-chain, I have to say that this is that same one. How do I do that? I'm taking any other anti-chain with these many elements. I have to say that this has to be. What do I need to prove? What do I need to show? How do I show that this is the same one? All I need to do is show that the cardinality of each of these AIs is, what should be the cardinality of each of the AIs? T by 2. Right? The cardinality of each of the AIs should be T by 2. And let me use the same notation as the earlier case. Okay, I'm going to keep the computations exactly the same. The computations, in fact, are exactly the same. What you see is, by the same argument that we have earlier, suppose so suppose one of these alpha i's was not T by 2, okay, I need to get a contradiction. So suppose there exists some k in 1 to up to m such that alpha I, alpha k is not equal to T by 2. I should get some contradiction. If I do that, I am done. Okay, now what happens is, let us see the same arguments from the previous case. Like in the previous case, we will have what do we have? We have summation. Okay, I'm going to work out summation I going from 1 to m alpha I t minus alpha I, I'm sorry, factorial. This is less than or equal to t factorial. This is what we can see. From the, like in the previous case, this is going to happen, right? Because these are anti-chains, there's nothing no problem here. These are anti-chains, right? So since these are anti-chains, the maximal anti-chains of they cannot sit. This cannot sit inside the same chain. Hence, you look at all the. These are the number of maximal anti-chains that AI sits inside. So this works. Again, divide by t factorial and take that down. What we will get is summation I going from 1 to m 1 over Tc alpha I is less than or equal to 1. Okay, now what does it mean that, what happens if alpha k is not equal to tk? If alpha k is not equal to tk, it means that for that particular binomial coefficient, the kth binomial coefficient is going to be strictly less than for every I. What is going to happen is, because this is the biggest binomial coefficient. This is the biggest binomial coefficient. We know this. Okay, this is the biggest one. And since alpha k is not equal to t by 2, what happens? T by 2 is the middle one, right? This is not t by 2, means that this binomial coefficient, the kth binomial coefficient, is going to have a strict inequality. Okay. So what happens? The moment one of them has strict inequality, you're going to get a strict inequality on that side. So therefore what happens is, for every I, let me just 1 over t by tct by 2, it's exactly the same computations, 1 over, and for k, and let me just, k, I don't need to write that, 1 by or Tc T by 2 is strictly less than 1 over Tc alpha k. So, if I look at this sum, let me just put a mark on this. If I look at this sum, summation I going from 1 to m, 1 over, okay, we will get a strict inequality here. This is going to be strictly larger than, because here you have one strict inequality. The moment one strict inequality is there, you're going to have a strict inequality. Okay, you're going to get a strictly greater than I going from 1 to m. It's exactly the same computations as in the previous this thing. The only thing is to recognize that one of them is going to have a strict inequality if you don't have this thing. So Tc T by 2. Again, these are all the same. So this is m times 1 over Tc T by 2. But what is m? What was m? What is m? Tct by 2, right? M was Tct by 2. The length of the anti-chain that we started with was Tct by 2. So that is Tct by 2 times 1 over Tct by 2, which is exactly 1. So what have we proved? Here we are saying that this is less than 1, less than or equal to 1, and by this computation, strictly greater than 1. Okay, so we have shown that this is strictly greater than 1. That's because m was equal to Tct by 2. Okay, so this was strictly greater. That's a contradiction, right? You can't say that this is less than or equal to 1 and strictly greater than 1. So you've got a contradiction, which means that the assumption that we made that there is some k such that alpha k is not equal to T by 2 is wrong. Okay, so this is a contradiction, and therefore for every I, alpha I should be T by 2. That means the number of elements in each of those sets has to be T by 2. So that's the one which we started with. So what we have proved is that when T is even, the only anti-chain of length Tct by 2 is the one containing all subsets with T by 2 elements in it. So what is the anti-chain of the power set of 6 with containment? Largest anti-chain of power set of 6 with containment? It's going to be, yeah, 1 2 3, 1 3 2, sorry, 1 2, I don't know, there are too many. Anyway, you can write the rest. 1 2 4, 1 2 5, 1 2 6, and you can fill up what the rest is, because there are quite a lot. I did not realize. It's 6 factorial divided by 3 factorial into 3 factorial, which is quite a number. How much? 6 into 5 into 4 divided by 3 factorial, which is 20. That's right. So you're going to have 20, you can fill out the rest. Okay, so that's what we have shown. So we've nicely got the biggest anti-chains in when T is even. Let's look at the case when T is odd. That's the harder case. So let's look at that. So in fact, you can do the same computations in this to get to one fact, that is that the, anyway, let's have a look at it. So if T is odd, then the power set of T with containment, okay, this power set has exactly two anti-chains of size, okay, of the larger size. We know that the larger size is achieved at Tc, greatest integer of t by 2, okay, or in other words, since t is odd, this is going to be Tc t minus 1 by 2, that's the greatest integer. Or if you also like, this is the same as Tc, because we know, right, nck is the same as ncn minus k, so this is also going to be, okay, up to you, it's the same number, okay. So two anti-chains of this size, there are exactly, which are the subsets, okay, the of the power set of T, either containing all subsets of T with T minus 1 by 2 elements, okay. Either it will be the subset of the power set wherein all the sets have T minus 1 by 2 elements, okay, that makes sense, right? Because how many such subsets are there in this set, in the set T? How many such subsets are there? In an n set, how many subsets are there of cardinality m? In an n set, how many subsets are there of cardinality m? That's right, NCM, right? NCM. So how many subsets are there of cardinality T minus 1 by 2? Or the same thing, okay. And how many subsets, or all subsets of this with T plus 1 by 2 elements, okay. One way of the proof I am not going to bother, that these themselves are anti-chains, that is obvious. These are anti-chains. If you take all the subsets with T minus 1 by 2 elements in it, it is going to be an anti-chain, as I have discussed earlier, that if you take any subset with the same number of elements, it's going to be an anti-chain. So this is, and how many elements it has? This many, which is the same as this. Similarly, this would be this many, which is that. So that that part is easy. The other part is what we should prove, that is, if you give me any anti-chain, with these many elements in it, I should either prove that it's of this type or of this type, okay. So I'll give you the technique of the proof. I'll first tell you what is going to be the strategy of the proof, and then we'll actually go to proving it. So the strategy is like this. By doing a similar computation which we have done in the previous theorem, we will show that every subset of the every element of the anti-chain, should either have T minus 1 by 2 elements in it or T plus 1 by 2 elements in it, okay, by doing a similar computation which we've done in the previous theorem. That's the first thing that we'll do. That doesn't prove our result, because then some can have T minus 1 by 2 and some can have T plus 1 by 2. The next thing which I will prove is that if there is even one element with T minus 1 by 2 elements, then all the subsets with T minus 1 by 2 elements should also be in that anti-chain, okay. If there is even one subset with T minus 1 by 2 elements, in that anti-chain, then I will prove that every other subset with t minus 1 by 2 elements should also be in that. That proves it, because that will pack that entire thing with what is it, these many elements in it. So if there is no with t minus 1 by 2, that means all will have to have t plus 1 by 2. That's the proof. Okay, that's how we are going to go with the proof. So it's just some computations to get to it, but very interesting computations in fact. So yeah, as I said, same kind of arguments as the previous one. So let script A equals A1, A2 up to AM be an anti-chain such that M is equal to TC T by 2. What do I need to do first? What is my goal? Show that the cardinalities of all of these is either t minus 1 by 2 or t plus 1 by 2. Okay, so exactly like the previous case, I'll assume that it's not and get a contradiction. So suppose the cardinality of let me say cardinality of AI, let me make it as alpha I, it looks nice. So suppose there exists some k in 1, 2 up to m such that alpha I is not equal to t minus 1 by 2 and alpha I is not equal to t plus 1 by 2. So if I get a contradiction to this, it means that this statement is false. This statement is false means either alpha I, this statement is false means that, see, this is there exists here, so there will be for every I, either alpha I is equal to t minus 1 by 2 or alpha I will be equal to t plus 1 by 2. That's the negation. So if I prove that this is false, if I get a contradiction, it means that I have proved my result. So if this is not true, what does it mean? Because as I have said, the maximum binomial coefficient is attained at these places, right? For when t is odd, the binomial coefficients keep increasing till it reaches t minus 1 by 2. Then this is just plus 1, right? T minus 1 by 2 plus 1 gives you t plus 1 by 2. Then it's equal at those 2 points and then it keeps decreasing. We have proved that in the first chapter. So what happens is, if this is not true, then what happens is t factorial or tc alpha k will be strictly less than tc t by 2, right? It is not the middle two binomial coefficients. If it's not the middle two binomial coefficient, it has to be strictly less than them. Simple as that. Okay. That's the one which is going to give me my contradiction. In fact, now you can do the proof in exactly the same way. So what we have here is, so for every I, just like last time, for every I, we know that Tc alpha I is less than or equal to Tc t by 2, that's the middle one. Okay, and therefore what happens is summation I going from 1 to n, 1 to m Tc alpha I, Tc alpha I will be less than or equal to summation I going from 1 to m Tc T by 2. Yeah, but one of these has a strict inequality, which means I'm going to get a strict inequality here. Okay, since one of them has a strict inequality, this has a strict inequality. But what is this? This is nothing but m times Tc T by 2. What is m? Some way I have made some error. There is some error somewhere. Just a second. I was not interested in this number. Oh, okay, let me just go with the previous way. Okay, so again, since each of them sit in a separate chain, since they have no, so by the same argument as earlier, because each of the AIs, no AI can sit in the same chain, what happens is summation I going from 1 to m alpha I times t minus alpha I factorial should be less than or equal to t factorial. Okay, do the same, bring down this t factorial, take that under, you will get summation I going from 1 to m 1 over Tc alpha I is less than or equal to 1. And also what we have, if I look at this summation I going from 1 to m 1 over Tc alpha I, see this is less than this, so you take this cross multiply, you're going to get this is going to be greater than, strictly greater than, because here you have one strict inequality, this will be strictly greater than, exactly the same thing as what you have in the previous theorem, 1 over Tc T by 2, and this would be m times 1 over Tc T by 2, but m is nothing but Tc T by 2, so this is 1. That's a contradiction, right? This is a contradiction. Hence, either alpha I is going to be equal to t minus 1 by 2, or alpha I will be equal to t plus 1 by 2. So we've come close to the argument, right? We prove that in that anti-set, in that anti-chain, there can only be subsets with either t minus 1 by 2 elements in it or subsets with t plus 1 by 2 elements in it. What we need to do is show that either all of them are of cardinality t minus 1 by 2 or all of them are of cardinality t plus 1 by 2. So to prove this, I am going to essentially just say that if I have even one set with t minus 1 by 2 elements in it, then every other set of t minus 1 by 2 elements in it will also have to be in that anti-chain. Okay, so let's make this argument, which is a very beautiful argument in fact. Okay, so suppose there is some u contained in script A, that is the anti-chain, such that the cardinality of u is t minus 1 by 2, okay, such that the cardinality of u is t minus 1 by 2, u is a subset of the set T, u is some subset of T, an element of the power set. Okay, then you take any u prime, okay, u prime is some subset of this such that, okay, let me do it the way you like. Okay, so let u prime be a subset of this such that the cardinality of u prime is t minus 1 by 2. Okay, let's go over this again. See, if this is not true, suppose there is no element in A of cardinality t minus 1 by 2, that means all of them have to be of cardinality t plus 1 by 2. Proof is done. Now, even if there is one of cardinality t minus 1 by 2, I am going to prove that every set of cardinality t minus 1 by 2 should also be inside. Okay, so in other words, now I just need to show that u prime is inside this thing. Okay, and the argument is actually quite interesting. It comes from this idea, that is, yeah, so it simply comes from the fact that this anti-chain should always have exactly one element from every maximal chain. Okay, it comes from the fact that this anti-chain, okay, the anti-chain of maximum length should always have exactly one element from any maximal chain. So that is what we need to argue. Okay, so I am going to prove that A should contain one element from every, exactly one element from every maximal chain. Yeah. Okay, so what we are going to prove is, we show that A contains exactly one element from every chain of length t plus 1. Okay, so if I have a chain of length t plus 1, I am going to show that exactly one element from that has to be in it. Okay, so how do I show this? It's quite easy. How many chains are there of length t plus 1? Okay, so the elements of this are ai, right? So the elements of this are ai. So how many chains are there of length t plus 1? We know that is t factorial. Okay, so the number of chains of length t plus 1 is t factorial, right? So the number of chains of length t plus 1 is t factorial. If I prove that for any I, okay, the number of chains that contain ai is also going to be t factorial. Okay, that means that right? If I prove that if I add up all the chains, first one that contains A1, then all the chains that contain A2, then all the chains that contain A3 and so on. If I prove that all adds up to t factorial, that means every chain should have at least one. Okay, so notice that the maximal chains or the chains of length t factorial or of length t plus 1 that contain at least, in fact at least is fine because it can never contain 2, right? No, I mean it's an anti-chain, so it cannot contain 2. So or contains one element of A is what? What is this going to be? Chains of length t plus 1 that contain one element of A is going to be what? Summation I going from 1 to m, right? How many maximal chains contain A1, AI? How many maximal chains contain AI? Cardinality of AI is what? Either t minus 1 by 2 or t plus 1 by 2, right? Either it will be t minus 1 by 2 or t plus 1 by 2. Okay, so we can say this is alpha I factorial into t minus alpha I factorial. Okay, which will always work out to, okay, this will always work out to, you can check and see, either your alpha I will be t minus 1 by 2 or t plus 1 by 2, okay. If it is t minus 1 by 2, then you will get t minus 1 by 2 factorial into t minus 1 by 2, which is t plus 1 by 2 factorial. Make sense? If alpha I is t minus 1 by 2 factorial, then you will get t minus 1 by 2 factorial into t plus 1 by 2 factorial. If alpha I is t plus 1 by 2 factorial, then you will get t plus 1 by 2 factorial, and here you will get t minus 1 by 2 factorial. So you are always getting t minus 1 by 2 factorial into t plus 1 by 2 factorial. Okay, so this will give you summation I going from 1 to m t minus 1 by 2 factorial into t plus 1 by 2 factorial. And what is this? This would be m times, right, t minus 1 by 2 factorial into t plus 1 by 2 factorial. But what is this m? What is m? What is m? Tc, t by 2, or in other words, this is t factorial divided by t minus 1 by 2 factorial into so the total number of maximal chains that consist of exactly one element in A will be t factorial, but that's the total number of chains. So therefore all have at least exactly one element of it. Okay, now this is the proof. Now it is just about a nice argument, a very nice argument. So what you can do is, if you give me, see, I have this set U, some fixed set U, and I'm giving you a set u prime. Okay. What I can do is I can create a sequence by first putting one element. Okay, put one element, so I'm going to get a subset of length t plus 1 by 2. This is of length t minus 1, of size t minus 1 by 2. So put one element, I get of length t plus 1 by 2. Then if I remove, I'll get again, remove one element, I again get a subset of length t minus 1 by 2. Okay, now I can always put and remove finitely many times, one at a time. First and insert, then remove, then insert, then remove, then insert, then remove, till I get u factorial. You can try and see, it's always possible. It is not very difficult to see. In fact, I can even give you the steps to do it. Example, say if this is x1, x2 up to xn, if your u is x1, x2 up to xn, okay, let us take distinct elements. I think that would be fair. Say these are your, start with a1, a2 up to ar, and then you have x1 up to xn, and u prime you have, say these are the common elements, a1 up to ar are the common elements among them. Don't touch those common elements. Okay, so this will be y1, y2 up to yn, and these are the distinct elements, the ones which are different. What do you do? You first put y1 in this, okay, and in the next stage you take out x1. So you can start with u equals u1, which doesn't do anything, which is contained in v1. How are you going to form v1? By putting y1 inside it. Put y1 inside this. Okay, then you remove x1. Okay, so from this you remove x1. So that means you're going to get u2 contained inside u1, v1. I'm removing out x1, right? So I have settled with the first this thing. y1 is inside. So what you will have here now? In u2, what will you have? y1 x2 up to xn. Now you can replace the you can replace the x2 with the y2 in the same manner, right? What do you do? First add y2, so you will get u2 contained inside v2. Okay, that's by adding y2 in it. And then you remove x2, so you will get, what is it? u3 by removing this thing, right? So these are all the contained in v2, and you keep doing that till you have interchanged all the x's with the y's, and then what you will get is essentially a nice sequence having this property, that is u1 contained in v1, u2 contained in v1, u2 contained in v2, u3 contained in v2, and so on. Now, why have we created this? It is very simple, because if you give me this u1 and v1, this has t minus 1 by 2 elements in it, this has t plus 1 by 2 elements in it. Okay, you can definitely find a maximal chain, you can always find a maximal chain containing u1 and v1. You will always find a maximal chain containing these two. One of them is going to be of size t minus 1 by 2 and the other one of size t plus 1 by 2. Just keep filling till you reach the u, and then you go from the u to the v, and then fill up till you reach up. So you will get a maximal chain. Okay, simple. So they will sit inside the maximal chain. But now what do we know? We know that A either has to have and not both. So A will either have u1 or v1 in it, right? A will either have u1 or v1 in it. It will also have either u2 or v2 in it. Why? Because it has to have exactly one element from the maximal chain. But all elements in A are either of size t minus 1 by 2 or t plus 1 by 2. And in this maximal chain, these are the only ones of size t minus 1 by 2 and t plus 1 by 2. Is it okay? Make sense? Okay, so A will either have u1 in it or V1 in it. A will also have either U2 or V1. Now watch and see what happens. I know that A has U1 in it. Okay, I know that A has U1 in it, which means it cannot have V1 in it. Since A cannot have V1 in it, it compulsorily has to have U2 in it. Again, A has U2 in it, so it cannot have V2 in it. Since it doesn't have U2 in it, it has to have U3 in it. So it has to have all U1, U2, U3, U4, whatever, up to Un, where you have reached U prime. That's the beautiful argument. Okay, so let's do that. So we can construct sequences of subsets U1, U equals U1, U2 up to Un equals and Vn minus 1 such that 1, what are the properties over here? How are we, by removing one element from Ui. So what do we do? At U1, I insert, in fact, by inserting one element into Ui to form Vi, right? How do I form Vi? By putting one element in and removing. How do I get now? From U1 I got V1 by putting one element. How do I get U2? Remove one element from it. So removing one element from Vi to get Ui minus 1. Sorry, I'm making a mistake. Ui plus 1, right? From V1 I go to U2 by removing an element. Okay. So therefore, what happens is 1, Ui will always be a subset of Vi, and 2, Ui plus 1 will always be a subset of Vi. Okay. Okay. So since we can always, this I will leave out to you. Find a maximal or a chain of length we go with t plus 1 containing, in fact I can always do it for any Uin, no, for containing what is it, Ui and Vi, and also Ui plus 1, because there's just a difference of one element here. Okay, there's a difference of more than one element and you can't do it because there's a difference of one element in it. So start by filling up to Ui, then you go to Vi, and then you fill up to the top. Similarly, fill up to ui plus 1, then you go to vi, and you fill the rest. So, also vi, ui and vi. And in that chain, these are the only elements of size t minus 1 by 2 and t plus 1 by 2. Right? In that chain, this will be the one of size t minus 1 by 2 and this will be this one of size t minus 1. And in that particular chain which you have got ui plus 1 and there are multiple, you take one. Okay, t minus 1 by 2, t plus 1 by 2. Okay, we see that either ui or vi, or in fact not this, we see that exactly one of ui and vi should be in and exactly one of ui plus 1 and vi should be in A. Okay. Now the argument is finished. So, since u1 or u equals u1 is in A, right, since this is in A, what happens? v1, because u and vi, exactly one of them should be in A. So, since this happens, v1 cannot be in A, right, which means that what happens? v1 is not in A, but exactly one of here, exactly one of u2 and v1 should be in A. So, therefore, that tells us that u2 should be in A, which would mean that u2 is in A. So, exactly one of u2 and v2 should be in A. So, v2 is not in A, right. So, this will mean that v2 is not in A, and you can keep making this argument to show that un, which is u prime, is in A. So, what have we shown? Therefore, every subset of size t minus 1 by 2 is in A. But A has only TC t minus 1 by 2 elements in it. I mean, A is a chain of length TC t minus 1 by 2. And if I am saying that every subset of size TC t minus 1 by 2 is inside, that packs up the entire A. You cannot have anything else. Therefore, A has to contain, therefore, A consists of all subsets of size t minus 1 by 2. That is the proof. So, we started with, we said that if there is a U with size t minus 1 by 2 in A, then the full A has to be all those subsets with t minus 1 by 2 elements. So, if there is no U with t minus 1 by 2 elements, then automatically, because we said that either A has t the elements in A either have to be of size t minus 1 by 2 or t plus 1 by 2. So, therefore, all would be t plus 1 by 2. That you can complete. So, that is the proof. Okay, that is the interesting proof of this theorem. I hope it is interesting. And there is a nice result which you can prove, which is follows from the Sperner's theorem. Surprisingly, I actually wanted to leave it out as a homework, but I think I'll give you the hint to it. So, it's like this. You would, I mean, when I looked at it, I could not expect that it is actually by using the Sperner's theorem, but it works. Okay. So, suppose So I'll say let x1, x2 up to xn, and or I think we were going with, yeah, okay, b in R, they are real numbers such that all the xi's are greater than or equal to 1. Okay, then you look at all these sums, that is, you're going to look at all the sums at most some number of okay, then at most these number of these sums, you look at all these different types of sums, plus or minus x1, plus or minus x2, plus or minus x3, up to plus or minus xn. You look at all of these. So either you put a plus or a minus. Look at all such things. How many different sums of these type are there? How many different sums are there of this type? Come on, that I'm sure all of you all can tell me. How many different sums of these type are there? Combinatorics. Yeah? Either you can put a plus or a minus. How many different sums are there? 2 raised to n, right? Because either you can put a plus or a minus. So there are 2 raised to n such sums. So among these 2 raised to n, I'm saying that at most some number are in the interval b comma b plus 2. Okay, and the number is nc, greatest integer of n by 2. That's the number. At most this number is going to be in this. How do you prove this? Any idea? Okay, so the idea is basically like this. If you look at any of these sums, you can associate it, okay, with a subset of, say, some n set. You look at the set S equals, let me show you. You can pull off some kind of a relation. I'll show you. You can take S to be just this set. In fact, we can go with ones and zeros, in fact. That would be convenient. Okay, we can go with, is that convenient? It would be convenient. Yeah, let me not, this thing. I can make it, I can do it. Yeah, let me go with A1, A2, and we will A1, A2, AN. Take S to be A1, A2, AN. Okay, think of these A1, A2, AN as on-off switches. Okay, think of these ANs as AIs as on and off switches. When they are there, it's on. When they're not there, it's off. Okay, so when there's a plus, so you can make this association. Given any sequence here, given any of these sums, you can associate it with a subset of that. How? If there's plus to the xi, if there's plus, you put ai inside. If there's minus, keep ai out. Make sense? If there's a plus, you put ai inside the set. If there's a minus, you keep ai out. Simple as that. So the set x1 minus x2 plus x3 would simply correspond to, I'm taking the case when n is 3, This would simply correspond to the set, what is it? A1, A3, right? Wherever there is a plus, you put this thing, where there is minus, leave it out. Simple as that, okay? This is a bijection. Given any sum of this type, you can give me a subset of that. Given any subset of that, you can give me that, which is exactly the inverse, right? It makes sense, right? If you give me any subset of this, wherever the elements are there, you put a plus. Wherever there are no elements, means whichever elements are not there, you put a minus. So this is a nice association which I can get of these sets, okay? Now I should ask myself this question, that is, see, the size of this is 2, okay? The size of this is 2, you have b plus 2, okay? Suppose I have extra pluses, okay? If I start with some, okay, let us see why I want to make such an association. Say suppose this sits inside this, what does it mean? Say suppose I have a subset S1 that sits inside the subset S2. What does it mean? It means that the corresponding number is going to be bigger than this, right? Because it's going to have extra pluses. And it will be at least bigger by 1. It will be at least bigger by 1. Can you see that? Because this is going to have, if it's a proper subset, okay, then this is going to have at least one element more than this, right? So therefore the corresponding sum, that place will be plus, everything else will be the same, not everything else will be the same, but whatever is here, definitely this will be bigger than the one which is corresponding to that, okay? So what you can notice is that given a chain, okay, given a chain, there will be at most, given a chain of this set, the power set of S with, I'm looking at the power set of S with containment, okay, given a chain in the power set of S with containment, at most one element of the chain, the corresponding sum will be in this. Because if you look at the chain, right? Look at the chain. So C1 contained in C2 up to Ci. Say if Ci is here, then Ci plus 1 will have to be out, because the sum of Ci plus 1 will be at least 1 times bigger than the sum of that. So that's makes sense. If Ci is inside, from Ci plus 1 onwards, it will have to be out. So Ci, say you have C1, C2 up to all outside. The moment Ci enters, everything else will also be out. So in a chain, at most one will be inside the, what does this tell us? Yes. In fact, there's something even better you can see. Another thing that you can see is that, actually I have not used chain anyway, I have basically used that if S1 is contained in S2, then, and if S1 is inside, then S2 cannot be inside, right? If S1 is inside, then S2 cannot be inside. In other words, if these two are related, if there are two this thing which are related, both of them cannot be inside here. Therefore, the ones which fall inside cannot be related. The ones which fall inside cannot be related, which means that they are going to form an anti-chain. The set of all the sums, the corresponding, you are looking at the corresponding subsets, they are going to form an anti-chain. But what is the size of the biggest anti-chain? Okay, all the sums that fall inside here, the corresponding subsets are going to form an anti-chain because they cannot be related. Because if one is inside, the other one cannot be inside, it has to be out because it have extra pluses and this is greater than or equal to 1. One is inside, the other one has to be out. Oh, that is a small, that needs to be shown, that if one is inside, the other one has to be out. There's a small catch there. So I think that would be, that's quite easy to show because you're taking off 1 minus and you're putting, so what's the difference? If you take off 1 minus and put in a plus, the difference you're going to get is going to be at least 2. The difference is going to be at least 2. Anyway, so I think with that, we can stop. And so you all can please write this out.